So let's talk about hospitality use case a little bit. What I kind of wanted to jump on, which is getting so much hype now, is Gary Vee's restaurant, the Fly Fish Club. Is anybody else in on that as hyped as I am, or is it just a strictly a hospitality thing that I am super excited about myself? But it's a tough entry point right now. But he's literally driving the way for the hospitality industry, especially in the deluxe high end club. But yeah, that's kind of where I think the basis is for the hospitality industry with NFTs. Is seeing Fly Fish Club launch with almost $20 million in funding before they even have a restaurant, and right then and there they have money to promote for a full year until and build out a club, while promoting, while building the hype, while getting secondary sales. That alone is, more revenue than some restaurants year. It's
Yeah,
crazy how quickly this NFT craze can change, an industry, and I think that's the start.
I think that that's an important point, right? Right now, it's we understand that when you put a person like Gary Vee in front of a project, you can definitely have it sell out no matter what, right? But now, what I want to see is the actual proof of concept, right? Like, I want them to actually roll out this plan and see if it even works out, right? Because at this point, it really is just concept. So I'm curious to see how it plays out, after they're done with all the secondary money. Like, what I'm curious to see how they're going to keep it going, because right now, the way it is, there will be secondary sales just because, leading up to, there's nothing to do with a token. So people are like, oh, I want to check it out or I don't. But after that, if you're just holding that token, what you were saying, right? They're not going to be generating many secondary sales. So I'm curious to see how they're going to manage all of that.
So they first off, they do actually have a crazy world renowned team when it comes to the hospitality side of things. A few chefs that are very well respected, but also on the front house as well. They Gary Vee is obviously the guy behind it, but he is not building out the restaurant. They have the right team behind that. And when it comes to continuing the sales and whatnot, this is actually what made me. This is the most money I've ever spent on anything, to be honest. And what made me so hyped about it is you can rent out your reservation, so you can hold your NFT and not live in New York, not visit it for you know except once a year, but you can have reoccurring revenue because you can rent out, your reservation to whoever wants it the most that night, really, or leave it at a low price daily, and maybe you're the first to go every day. So that side of it has not been clearly defined, but I think just the prospect is huge.
Yeah, I definitely see it. But once again, it's like there's a few barriers there where, if they didn't have that in place, it would get a lot more complex for people who just, aren't frequently traveling to New York. And on top of that, like what are the chances that you travel when they have the event, right? So that's why I can totally see it, but I definitely want to see how they're gonna, manage the price ratio for the tokens and all of that as, it progresses.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's obviously a long way to go, and I think just like any projects right now, it has to have a starting vision, and just like we were talking about the other day, you're gonna take leaps that might not be strictly aligned with your original vision, but it's the right decision. You got to take moves, that'll further your company. Maybe that wasn't in the original plan, but it's going to be transitions here and there to especially as technology evolves. That's a whole other thing. Like, we're talking 2 years from now, it's going to be a whole other game when it comes to virtual reality, when it comes to reservations at a restaurant, everything.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
When it comes to hotels, though, that's I think where the big opportunity is. At scale, do you see, hotel keys, hotel cards moving into NFTs? How do you see that going to scale? Is my question.
So I think that, as far as uses that are much simpler like that, right? I think that, basically making an NFT out of it, it's 100% going to happen, right? But I see those more of a like a POAP, right? Than it really is like its own NFT that you can buy and resell, right?
Right. Yeah. So it's more of like you go to Disney World and you bring back this POAP every single year, and you look back 10 from years. Oh yeah, that was the year, you know, our little baby got sick on the ride, and you use that as like how people used to collect ticket stubs or airplane tickets. It's going to be a very, very similar switch. Um, yeah, it's all going virtual.
Yeah,
But
because
good.
go ahead. Sorry.
No. Sorry, you go first.
That I think that it's really going to vary, right? Because for example, if we're talking about Disney, now they could launch a whole game theory behind their NFTs and implement them directly to their rooms and to their hotels and all of that. But if you're going to stay at a Marriott or something when you're in Disney, then I definitely don't see Disney integrating the Marriott token or anything like that, so it wouldn't be linked. That's why kind of like how we treat a hotel key today, right? It just kind of goes in the garbage, or you just give it back to the front desk. But in this case, instead of that, like there are some that even I collected, right? Because I'm like, damn, that was a really good time that I spent over here, and it was enjoyable. Let me keep the key to just remember when I see it. So just like that, I think that keys could become like POAPs or even NFTs that are maybe on the Polygon network, right? Where you don't have to pay gas or any of that. And well, you do, but it's just minimum compared to Ethereum, of course.
Yeah, 100%. I think a lot of projects are switching to layer twos right now because of that reason. If you want to move at scale, you can't have gas. That's going to be really, really big. When it comes to the new Ethereum network, if they can't fixate that gas issue, then everyone's going to move to those second layers.
Yeah, I mean, even Vitalik came out saying that the future of Ethereum, like the quote unquote end game, is with the ZK rollups, which are what enable all of that innovation on a separate layer, right?
Yeah, exactly. Lil Band's got a request here. Let's let him jump in here and see what you got to say. Lil Bando, you there? You got to unmute yourself, sir.
Oh, you talking to me?
Yeah, you requested to come and speak. What's happening?
All right, man. How you doing, man? What's up, NF peeps? I just came here. Basically, I just landed here. I don't know how, but I was just wondering, what is this about exactly? If somebody could explain it.
Yeah, man. So we have a hospitality company called Metaverse Hospitality Consulting Group. Our goal right now is to be the first hotels in Sandbox. We are going to be the first two hotels in Sandbox, and we're building NFTs around that. But our end game is creating a bridge between the hospitality industry and Web3 community, like blockchain, NFT, Web3 technology. And this space is kind of just an introduction to that and use case within the hospitality industry. Are you, in restaurants or hotels or anything like that?
No, I'm just into coding, coding personally and just looking into projects to get into. And this seems interesting. So I just popped in just to see what's going on, see about your links, websites, anything that I could, that would lead me to more information aside from this space.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Well, I can, let me post, so this is my first space here. I know we can post things on the top here, but I got to figure that out. But Metaverse Hospitality, the co-host,
I can help you.
Can jump on the profile there. What's up, Laura?
Yeah, I followed you guys.
Yeah. So jump on that. We got a bunch of videos out that go in detail on the project and that pin post. And we got a Discord that is private at the moment. If you sent me a message, I can get you in there if you're interested in hospitality and whatnot. But yeah, we're just getting started. This is our first spaces. We're gonna be, like I said, bridging the gap between the hospitality industry and Web3.
All right. Appreciate you. I'll send you that message now for the Discord because I love to be in
Cool,
here.
man. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming up. Laura, where is this link post? I can't see it anywhere.
Hi, how are you
What's
guys?
up?
Sorry I didn't say hi before. I was jumping from another space and doing a million things, but so happy to be here. And
Oh, did
Tommy,
you do it?
where's the
Okay, you
what?
did it.
Yeah, I did it.
Okay,
I linked it.
gotcha.
So I'll show you how it is. You see where in any post there's like a little arrow facing up next to the like button
Yeah.
there, and then it would give you the option share tweet, and then the first one would be to pin it at top.
Nice. Okay.
All right, last thing. Sorry about that. I can't message you, Tafar, at all.
I'm about to add you. You're good.
All right, thanks.
I'll get you in there once we're done with this. I'll send you the invite and whatnot. I got a business goat that wants to jump in here. Let me see where he's at. He's got a fun little hotel NFT project going on.
While we're on here, we would love to hear if you guys have any other questions. The Bando, he hopped on and asked a good one, but if anybody else wants to ask us anything else, we're here kind of to spread awareness and answer anything you might have.
Yep.
Talk
We got
about your day.
a few people that want to eventually get in and talk about their projects related to hospitality. But in the meantime, yeah, let's open the floor. Any questions, any ideas regarding use case and hospitality? Let's hear it.
Yeah, something I wanted to add in about kind of like what you guys were talking earlier about like how you could see like NFTs or like uh POAPs like in hospitality is like kind of like an early rudimentary example of something I kind of see in that. I haven't experienced it personally, but my sports marketing teacher was talking about when he went on like Disney cruises and like how Disney cruises have like those bracelets that kind of like act as your all inclusive pass into your rooms, into like when you guys dock on different destinations. It's also like super kid friendly because you can kind of like know a little bit where your kids are based on like their location on the bracelet, and like that's kind of like interesting how to see how that could develop not only in like your guys' real hotels but also in your sandbox land as well.
Yeah, 100%. That's definitely a goal of, not only our own NFTs that have like specific access, just like, NFTs offer any type of utility, but yeah, that's going to be huge in the real world too. Maybe even when it comes to jumping across, globe to globe, country to country, hopefully brands unite when it comes to the blockchain industry, kind of like the people and companies of the blockchain are, and work together and create a system that works for all. So there's lots of opportunity. I brought up the business goat. Let me jump him here. He wanted to talk about a little bit of future hospitality use case, and he actually has his own project himself that he may want to talk about. Business goat.
Hey,
That is on you if you want to discuss it. But
yeah, sorry, I got rugged there for a second. I was in another Twitter Spaces and I lost track of time. So sorry about that, T4. How's everyone doing?
No, you're good. We're fantastic. How are you?
Doing good. There's so much happening in this space. Sometimes it's like I got your DM and I was like, wait, is that 4 p.m. PST? And then I just saw your Twitter right there and I was like, oh shit. So
My bad. Yeah. Always the time changes.
no, I'm super excited because I know, we talk about hospitality industry and when I come from a real estate background, I manage executive luxury vacation rentals in real life, and trying to bridge that, to the metaverse as far as, a platform that has Unreal Engine and, reverse engineering in real life experiences and concierge. I think there's a lot of opportunity in different spaces, collaborations and partnerships on every angle. I think a lot of projects, especially like Bored Apes and even yours, right? The metaverse and hospitality space and giving people a place to be social online within a community is huge. But I think there's also a place where, you see more and more users want that, but they also want that ecosystem in real life. And so it's how do you kind of, build a community around that hospitality, not only virtually and on the blockchain, but bring that community to in real life organizations as well. And I think that's something that's really interesting to chat about and look at, especially as, this year, I think you're going to see a lot of innovation in that space.
Right. And we actually, I think before you jumped on here, we were very similarly talking about how Gary V's restaurant Fly Fish Club, most of the holders aren't going to be in New York City. They're most likely not going to be eating at his restaurant. But how do you get everyone involved? How do you keep it at the price point it should be? And how do you make that NFT valuable for everyone holding it? If you are strictly, some people are going to be strictly metaverse people. Some people are going to be strictly social and real life people. But the broader scopes of things, it needs to be a little bit of both.
You're right. And I think, Gary Vee's playing with that in a certain way, right? Where I think at the simplest level, you say, okay, we tokenize access, right? We just say, well, in order to get into here, you have to, have this NFT, right? And then I think there's a deeper level to that. Like, we chat a little bit my project out on where, we're licensing the ability to design our crypto community to a project. So we're not just saying, hey, we're going to give this, we're going to mint this pass and we're going to allow people who have it to stay in these really high end properties. We're taking a step further and integrating in, home automation that allows you to connect your wallet and push all of your NFTs, the community to have a stake in voting on the ability to remotely control those mural canvases. So say, for instance, you had 50 Bored Apes and you wanted to have those displayed across all of these homes, you could begin to do that. And so I think the communities that bridge, not just, hey, you have a token, you can come to my restaurant and order food, but bring the community into the curation of that process, into that discussion as it's being built. And then, as you said, reverse that within the metaverse and in real life. I think that's a way that you really deepen that relationship with your holder. That's how you actually build that community.
Right. Yeah, 100%. That's kind of like the personalization side. Every luxury hotel wants to be extremely personable. They want to have, like, before NFTs, obviously you were looking on social media, Web2, and seeing what everything you were into. So let's say a 5-star hotel knows you're going to stay for a month. They're going to have pictures of, your family throughout the room. Anything that you have on social media that you are all about, your life, they're going to have that tailored to it. Moving into the future, it's going to be your wallet, and it's going to be things that you can choose yourself before you even come. The extreme is like personalized to a 5-star level. Is the goal.
Yeah, I think that from that end, you could totally see where you start seeing use cases from your wallet, exactly as, if you buy a stay in at a hotel and you have a token, you then use that token to go inside your room. And since it's inside your wallet, all of the paintings will no longer, be physical, but they'll probably be screens that they turn into the things that you hold in your wallet, right?
Absolutely. And you take it a step further than that, right? At the most simplest level, like some of the technology we're exploring is integrations with Mural Canvas, right? And we already have automation that allows, a user right now to say, Alexa, turn on Marvin Gaye and set the jacuzzi to 105. But how cool with it as that happens, right? If you have, a portfolio full of Beeples or whatever it is, that you can push that art right now when you're checking in. It's not, oh, well, they happen to have some art. You're really able to let the customer augment their own experience, and I think, some of the studies we've done, it's like, hey, a kid's room, right? Well, what kid's staying there? Is it a boy or is it a girl? Wouldn't it be cool if you could curate that kid's room to whatever your kid wanted? Was Transformers assembling on the walls or whatever it was? I think, it's a much deeper, intimate relationship that you can curate with your holder. And I think we're all kind of saying the same thing, but I really love that, because I think I'm a big fan of Walt Disney, and I think he did that better than anyone else, right? Giving the wow experience before you even checked in. And a lot of what, you see for Disney, you miss, right? You miss all of the subtle things that together create that dynamic experience.
No, 100%. Yeah, there's so many things. I mean, any hospitality, hotel, restaurant, anybody in the hospitality industry that does well, there's so many things going on behind the scene that have to go well, along with teamwork and along with everyone, working well together. And that's going to translate into NFT too. Like we said, you need both sides. You're going to have that team on the blockchain, but they're going to have to be in communication constantly with the real life, team to make it all work.
The other interesting perspective you think at too is, if you're successful at this model, right? So say you're Gary Vee and you manage to get this token and people come in and they use your restaurant. What's the standard reward process in real life for engagement? Well, it's a rewards point, right? We all have banks and credit cards and everything else. Why do those rewards points suck? Well, they can change in monetary value overnight, diluting in value most of the time, really never gaining, and you can't sell them out of the ecosystem. I think one of the things you'll see, especially in the hospitality, and one of the things we're already exploring, is that, well, if users book your homes and stay there, what's going to happen? Well, you're going to have to mint a rewards point. You're going to have to give somebody something tangible as a reward for that, right? And then when you think about, well, what if as the portfolio grows, somebody doesn't want to stay at a vacation rental, they want to stay at this other hotel? And what if, those points could be exchangeable, right? We all have Amex cards, we all have Chase cards, and there's no way to exchange the points or do anything for them, right? They're centralized within their ecosystem. But I think you're going to begin to see that kind of change as that dynamic kind of forces that, right? Because you're not going to get people to stay at your places and take part of it without offering some type of reward system. And you're not going to be able to offer that without it being on the blockchain. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out and who can create that ecosystem of, once again, reward value for engagement, separate and aside from, being a part in the community itself.
So let's talk long term then. Let's say 10 years from now. How do you see rewards programs operating, looking, anything?
It's going to be just like Uniswap, right? It's going to be as simple as swapping your
that's where
Sandbox
I was going.
token
exactly.
to this. You're going to have a Marriott point. You're going to have a Hyatt point. You're going to have whatever point it is, but they're going to be tied to an LP pool, tied to an actual market value, right? They're not like, and the company can come and say, okay, well, hey, if you were just to translate it to real world, right? Marriott comes and says, hey, this room, now to mint the voucher for it, right, is 100,000 points. If that's a 50% increase, what's going to happen to their point value? People are going to dump it. But because that can't happen right now, right? People are just like, oh, we just got to, people got merged on the SBG Marriott merger, but those of us who had points just got wrecked, right? If we had the option to sell prior to somebody who would take that, I would have taken it.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, something like that's huge when it happens. I mean, people don't realize how often that happens in the hospitality industry too, mergers and buyouts. And I mean, it's large companies happening very, very often. And, and if that was on the side of where we're at in the blockchain, like think about if we could capitalize on that, the normal crowd, the way we're capitalizing on NFTs, that'd be fun. That'd be real fun.
I think that, the biggest thing also is that, look at, seeing both of you guys see things, working in the same sector, but having, unique perspectives. I think that's the beauty of NFTs, right? When you understand your sector enough to know the problems and issues that, by implementing NFTs in one way or another could make the industry a lot more fluid, more effective, more efficient, more everything to the customer, right? Because, not every company makes decisions that are best for the customers. And I think that that's where NFTs are going to help a lot, right? In that aspect of like, anyone can really introduce NFTs to whatever sector it is that they work in, as long as they're able to figure out, what are the problems that you have right now that NFTs can solve, right? And it can really be applied to anything. Starting from the room key to a whole experience in your room just because it's from your wallet type of thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's a matter of getting the partners in place that already have the assets in real life that could best plug and play into Web3, right? I think you see a lot of challenges now is where people are trying to raise funds through crypto to go and buy something to do this, and you run into securities issues, right? It's going to be a matter of who can license with an in real life tangible provider that already owns the asset that can do it in partnership, right? And so, I think one of the things that Web3 has kind of hurt a little bit is, we've had really good developers, we've had really good influencers, but I think now, especially this year and in the upcoming, you're going to see kind of the in real life entrepreneur investor come in that wants to build and reverse engineer what they've already built in real life and provide an ecosystem, for the crypto user. And I think that's kind of what needed to happen in this space to kind of get it to the point where it is now, where we can kind of see a lot of these ideas come to fruition, maybe a little bit roughly, but still it's taking shape.
Oh yeah, I think people are still going to flip whatever they can flip, obviously, but PFPs and projects are on the out, and companies and building and doing the right startup process is on the way in, and I think that the ones that are here to stay will be clearly defined by companies and not just a project.
Yeah, and touching a bit more on that point, I think that's why we really haven't seen, every single company in the world, or, at least the ones that know about the technology and everything, implement any of it right away, because there's still a lot of, it's kind of like muddy waters, right? Where you don't really understand where they're going to be at in the future. So for a traditional like legacy business, and especially if if they're public, and they have stocks, they're not going to do that. They can't,
Yeah.
I agree 100%. And I don't think that those are the players that are going to come in first. I think the private entrepreneur that is willing to take risk, speaking of myself, I started hosting Airbnbs in 2014. The first attorney I called to get me a license said that they wouldn't represent me, that it was illegal. There's no way anyone would choose staying in a hotel or staying in a home over a hotel, right? 8 years later, that seems preposterous, right? People are like, what do you mean you wouldn't stay in a home? Of course you would, right? And so I think for those of us who've kind of been in markets prior to them becoming legal or regulatory body taking form over it, just like crypto users, right? You have to be a little more risk averse, right? All of us who play in this space have a tolerance for risk that the majority of other people don't have. And some businesses, you're right, aren't going to have that tolerance, nor the capital, nor the willingness to risk that. I don't think we should ask those people to. It's about bringing the right people in with the right projects. And I think those people are right at the door.
Very good point. Very good point. So we just wanted to use this as kind of like an introduction to Metaverse Hospitality and the hospitality industry as a whole. We want to get this spaces going weekly. Every Tuesday at 4, we're going to be talking about hospitality and NFTs and the blockchain and how they all connect. We're going to have a main topic each week, but obviously we go a little off topic here and there. But yeah, we want to see everybody weekly and make this a very, very constant thing. Maybe if we get a little bit of a demand, we'll get it at twice a week. But Tuesdays, 4:00 every week. Anybody else want to jump in before we wrap things up today?
Yeah, I think we've got Rommel here. They wanted to say something. They got their hand up, and
Yeah,
Laura
we'll
as
keep it
well.
going for a little bit. What's up?
Absolutely.
Guys, am I
Go
rocked?
ahead.
You guys hear me?
No, we hear you.
Oh, you're
What's
good.
up?
Good.
You need to unmute yourself, though.
But can you hear me now?
Yeah, we hear you now.
All right, Twitter says I'm muted. So, guys, I've been listening to everything you said. First of all, thank you for having me on stage. Second, just a little bit about me. My name is Ramo. I have like more than 17 years of experience working in the travel industry. I've worked with hotels, with boutique hotels, with cruises and airlines. And as I was hearing with you, I noticed that this is kind of not the first time we are in front of a huge technological change, and the hospitality industry is going to stay behind. I mean, we're kind of seeing the NFT shifting as a membership only. As you mentioned before, the Gary V's and restaurant. I just took a look an eye up to the website, and it's basically like a membership. So I wouldn't like if the introduction to the NFT hospitality would just depend on a membership only, because we already have Marriott rewards, Intercontinental, Hyatt rewards, and all of those peoples that, as the more you buy, the more rewards or points you can exchange in other of my hotels, right? So that would be kind of it. And also, regarding what the business coach said, I totally agree with you, bro. I mean, it's like the first people who are going to try this is going to be the small hospitality, right? The ones that has the, I don't know, maybe 20 to 40 rooms, or hotel boutiques that are maybe in luxury destinations. So yeah, sorry for the breath, guys. I'm just having my third day of COVID, and fuck, so hard. But thank you very much for your time, guys.
And hope you feel better. Thank you for the insight, though. Yeah, we would love for you to join. You obviously know your hospitality industry very, very well. So, I mean, yeah, 100% agree. The little ones are gonna evolve, and whoever does it well is gonna, lay the ground for the big boys. I think just like we saw Nike and Artifact, the ones that do it well, just like boutique hotels went off and crazy spurts of revenue for just like Airbnbs as well. And then Marriott went out and bought, all these boutique hotels up. I think we're going to see that in the hospitality industry too. There's going to be those smaller hotels that do really, really well. And then we'll see Marriott, and Hilton and the big ones come.
Yeah, I think that there, I do agree with you, Ramel, but I think that the only reason why we're starting to see, kind of like things emerge more often as far as like, oh, this NFT is a membership and that one or this. I think that the reason for that is that there hasn't been enough time for people to really sit down and innovate, right? Like, we're still having projects launching PFPs every day. Like, there is very few people who are actually innovating in the space, right? And at the same time, you have to remember that it's also extremely hard to innovate on a not broken, but on something that needs a lot of fixing, right? So right now on Ethereum, right, it's like even if I wanted to go ahead and I have this amazing idea and I want to create the hotel cards as NFTs, I wouldn't be able to do that on Ethereum, right? I would need to do a layer 2, or I would need to just simply choose another blockchain. And I think that that's, hurting a lot of innovation. And at the same time, we have to give it time for the industry to really, onboard more people that have the ideas, right? And that are willing to take those risks and innovate within their sectors.
Now, do you think that things like Coinbase and then partnership with MasterCard, is that going to be what we need, or do you see it just being years and years of time and people further understanding the space to get there?
The thing is, I think it's going to take, basically the movements that the whole community is doing, right? As long as you interest people like, hey, if you want to find out about crypto, jump in a space. And basically every space is kind of teaching people, right? But as Goat was saying, I don't think that all of this innovation is going to come from those big brands and corporations. Like, I have my own business, and even there, for me to get things done, I have to go through, this, legal, that, it takes a while, right? It's not like when I first started the company, whatever I wanted to do, I just did it, and I didn't have to check if I could do it with anyone, right? So that's why I think that ultimately, yes, like we are the innovators, right? We are the people that need to try these things, because big brands just can't do that. They're not basically allowed to by their own rule sets that the company puts out, right? So I think that it'll come from little people like us, and it's just about really coming up with it. Because the problem right now that we're seeing is that everyone's just kind of copying each other, right? So you see a membership, hey, let's launch a membership. You see someone do different colors, let's launch. But until people really sit down and get over the whole PFP and all the things that are being just copies and provide no utility or innovation, we're going to see more of that for the time being, I'd say.
And I want to jump in really quick, Romel. I do believe that innovation is key. And right now, because this space moves so fast, and every 5 minutes, we have a new project coming out, something else minting, someone else wanting to be part of the new whitelist. It gives, I think, that urgency in order to launch something, right? So I hope that message doesn't get lost. And I think a lot of people are working on projects that are gonna make a difference, right? And are gonna make an impact in a different way and not just copy paste, because copy paste is fast. So if you do copy paste, hell yeah, you're gonna sell out, right? Like if right now I went and I did something and then I could gather a bunch of people and I rallied them up. I'm like, please look how cute my pictures. Let's all change our PFP. It could work, right? But is that innovative? It's not. Is it something bad about that? It's not. At least you're selling what you're saying. You're not over promising. But if you're gonna go into projects that are genuinely trying to innovate in their space, is going to be a whole different ballgame, and it's going to require the community to see the vision and to want to be part of the vision and to kind of like say, okay, I see what you guys are want to do. I want to jump in, have an opinion, and do this together. But if we just like want to launch something tomorrow, that I feel like is a recipe for disaster after mint, not necessarily during the mint time. And that's where it comes for the responsibility of people that are involved in the space and to show face and to say, hey, you know what, I'm backing up this project because I believe they're gonna, give me the time of day post minty, right? And look out for one another. If we see someone that's doing the same project that, hey, you know what, this was a rug, please, let's all be friends and continue to support the people innovating in the space.
Yeah, 100%. There's I think a lot of people. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, in terms of what I hear, a roadblock is like a big corporation coming into the space with the hospitality and the metaverse. So my personal thing is, why can't we have something with the NFT and the hotel card or whatever issue, and just have like a crowdfunding contract, so whereas we just build our own hotel with our own keys, with our own ecosystem of whatever, and do it ourselves, as opposed to integrating it with a already existing hotel.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I looked at doing this. We build hospitality venues in real life, and simply put, you can't. You'd have to bypass accredited investors, which you can't do, and you'd be committing securities fraud.
Yep.
So typically, unless you do a Series A, which requires 99 people, you have to all bypass an accredited investment form, which is $2 million net wealth or $250,000 in W-2 income over a 3-year period. So a lot of DAOs have gone in trouble by putting forth the kind of language that you're saying, and then after mint have to make blanket statements like, oh, well, we're not actually going to do that. We're going to do some virtual thing, because they realize pretty quickly that they can't use any of those funds. Until that changes, you're going to need to license the right to use with somebody who already owns the asset. You won't be able to crowdsource, source, and purchase.
Yeah, that's basically what's happening right now with I'm not sure if you guys are familiar, but with the project from Pixel Vault Meta Heroes, right? So they release these tokens, right, that you can basically stake your NFT and you get this token. You get an interest per se. So basically weekly you get X amount of X token, right? But they had to remove the liquidity from the pool because all of this liquidity was coming from the sales that they had of the comic, and that basically became a security as soon as they were profit sharing. By allowing us to cash out with that token. So another thing is that, when you're building a business, it's a lot more complex than everyone imagines when you're trying to do things, especially at that magnitude. There's so many regulations for so many things. And that's another reason why I was so adamant about, big corporations not being able to basically embrace a lot of this technology. And it's going to be that way for at least, a year or two, basically, till regulations start catching up.
Yeah, there's 100% quite a few big corporate companies that legal counsel say that no, you can't touch it. Like if we go in near it, then we're out. And they're not risking it, so they listen, and until they have to, then they're out because their legal counsel told them to, and it's as simple as that.
One thing I will say is that we have a lot of information in this space, right? And we're not all experts in every single part. So it's really cool when we jump into, I don't know, you see maybe some spaces about legal, about taxes, about, and you find out all this information that you were just mentioning business, that it's so viral and so important because perhaps someone tells you about our project and you're like, oh my God, but this project sounds so much better. But without this back information, we would just like, here, take my money, like, and that's why when I like to onboard people into the space, I like to remind people, hey, you know what, if you hear me speaking, I don't have all the answers, but please, like, spend your time here, because you see, just from this space, I'm like, I appreciate so much that feedback that you had, because it's so well explained that now when the next time you see that, you might be like, maybe I didn't understand fully, but this seems like a red flag, right?
Go ahead, Mr. Stats. You had your hand up for a while.
Yeah, I wanted to say that.
Hey, thanks for having me up. So I'm aware I joined this space late, so I may have missed this already. And if I have, then if you could just point me to some resources that you guys have put out covering this. But my question is, I'm really curious to hear more about what you guys are doing with sensory inclusion. I'm very familiar with the autism spectrum and how they're affected just in our modern world with the way things are. And so I'm really, really curious how you guys are going to integrate sensory inclusion with Metaverse Hospitality and what that looks like.
Yeah, for sure. So I have specifically been working with Culture City on how we can integrate sensory inclusion rooms through the metaverse. And we're a little ways out on, the sandbox build being complete, but we want it to be very similar to what they offer in the real world. So I don't know if you're familiar with Culture City. They work with many different organizations, whether it's, the NBA, concert venues.
They worked with the Cavaliers, right?
Yes, I don't think it's the entire NBA yet, but quite a few teams. They'll definitely have the entire NBA soon. And there's a few other sensory inclusion companies out there, but Culture City is headed up by Dominique Wilkins, the Hall of Famer that played for the Atlanta Hawks, and has a very, very well-renowned board from a bunch of different musicians to athletes. So they are only a few years old and starting to get integrated in pretty much every venue across the country. And we want to help them bridge that into the metaverse. And this very similar objective is having things that distract you from the noise, I guess is the best way to put it, So those little fidget spinners. They have ID cards in real life that are very, very popular. So we're thinking some type of ID card that shows your NFT or your avatar on that, things that just make you feel obviously more comfortable in the space. And something that we, touched on is customer service, first off, in the hotel industry, making you feel inclusive from the moment you step in. But say we have like a concert going on at the hotel that day and it is loud. There is a lot of people walking around the metaverse, and it can translate to real life too, where you get a little bit disturbed. You have to chill out for a little bit. So we're going to have those inclusion rooms where, maybe it's just a safe space in the corner that's nice and quiet with some headphones. Maybe it's a little Rubik's Cube that you need to, knock out real quick. Just anything that makes you, feel a little more calm. We want to offer it, both metaverse and in real life.
Awesome. Well, thanks for taking the time to answer my question. I like your answer, and I'm really, really curious to see what you guys do going forward. So I'll definitely be paying attention.
Well, thank you for supporting. I appreciate it.
Oh, honestly, that's pretty amazing, T-Far.
Thank you for
I didn't even know you were doing that.
Yeah. It's Dominique Wilkins. It's an amazing connection, and it's an amazing opportunity to work with a nonprofit. Yeah, it's kind of was the icing on the cake, It was something that we obviously could not pass up, and the partnership helps out everybody in all aspects. You know, it's great for both sides in so many different ways.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that this space misses on is, it tends to, more often than not, especially if you've been in the space, it tends to be more of a selfish space than a selfless space, right? Most people are always willing to do something for themselves or give somebody else information if it benefits them, but most people aren't willing to go out of their way to find something to make an impact in someone else's life that doesn't affect them in any way. And so you can always gain idea of what projects are going to do it right or what leaders are in the right place, because those who think that far ahead and try and proactively build an environment, knowing that these type of people who are normally left out of it, because it's not inclusive, build that. That's genius, bro.
100%. I just finally figured out how to pin, by the way. So I just pinned a post that
Yay.
Dominique Wilkins, if you are not too familiar with sensory inclusion, Julian Maha has a TED speak that I just posted. That's actually the two people I'm working with directly is Julian Maha. He's an absolutely genius physician, surgeon, I believe. And then Dominique Wilkins is the one who posted it. But if you're not familiar, check that video out. It'll explain everything in detail.
Okay, I pinned it right now.
Perfect. Any other questions? Anybody else want to jump up?
I will say, just kind of looping back to, irregardless if a community can't crowdsource or fundraise, and irregardless if royalties can't be waived, I think that there's a huge opportunity still for, like luxury class membership within, a tokenized asset. So I mean, like, somebody was saying, oh, well, I think, a project like this would have struggles deploying on ETH mainnet. And I would say almost the exact opposite, right? It's kind of like somebody who has an American Express Black Card, right? You're never going to get that person to spend that amount of money if, for instance, that token was minted on Polygon or Matic, right? There's used to there being a level of kind of foundational support, like, there's just a level of associated with kind of ETH mainnet and having your NFT minted on it that really isn't there yet for any other thing, right? If TFAR was like, hey, we're going to mint this all on Solana, I don't think it would. It doesn't work out as well. I don't think that a huge network change needs to happen as much as some projects don't fit, right? Meaning, like, if the cost for entry is too much and it wouldn't make sense to deploy it on ETH main. I think others will. I think a luxury hospitality membership brand, or like if you look at Links DAO, where you look at the cost of a country club membership is $15,000 a year. I'm never going to pay that for a token that's minted on something other than ETH main. It's just not going to happen, right? And so I think certain tokens for certain memberships, especially in the luxury class, which is what I feel like what we're talking about, it's going to demand that. Not to say there wouldn't be a lower one, but I just think of, from a user experience. I don't know how you guys feel.
Yeah, no, I would definitely agree with you. I'm also the person that, I don't really mint anything outside of Ethereum as well, just for that, right? I kind of focus where the liquidity and where most of the developers are at as well, right? But I think that the only issue there that I see that it's, it's not about that Ethereum is broken and I can't launch my project. I just think that as of right now, this moment, it limits the potential that I could do with this token of making it more than just a single membership, right? So if I wanted to apply any type of tokenomics and interactions with it, then just simply because it's on the Ethereum chain, unless it's this luxury good like you're saying, you're basically cutting out so many people from just using it, because I would argue that, 90% of the population doesn't have $100 to spend on gas, right? Like, I think that's the biggest problem right now. Laura, go ahead.
Say something?
No, I mean, I feel like Esco said everything, so that's what I was gonna point out that I think there's going to be room for other blockchains. Absolutely. I just think that as of right now, the one that's getting, more work done is Ethereum. So I feel like the bigger projects and the more innovative is going to start in here 100%.
And to add to that, I honestly think that the future for just NFTs and crypto in general is going to be cross chain, right? Like all the chains will be bridged, and even today, I don't know if any of you guys have ever bridged coins to different platforms, but it's really not as complex as it used to be, right? Before, you had to go through some hoops to be able to figure it out, and it's super scary, right? But nowadays it's a lot easier, and I think that with time and improvements with the overall UI and UX, it'll get so much easier that in the future, ideally, NFTs will be interoperable, right? You could take them wherever it is that you want. It wouldn't be a problem having it on Ethereum or Polygon or, VeChain, AVAX, wherever it is.
I agree with you, but I am also have some very bullish maxi friends, ETH maxis, and I can tell you that there is a version of ETH collector that will only ever collect, because if everything's gonna be a ZK roll up to ETH, right? And you're gonna have basically Bitcoin on the bottom, ETH as your transaction layer, and then everything else on top, right? Then as that on top keeps growing and less is less minted to ETH because it's so cost prohibitive, how valuable is those tokens that did that prior to those that didn't? Because it's the other side to your sword, right? It's like, well, not everyone can afford Jimmy Choo's. Not everyone can afford Versace, but that's the very reason that it's a luxury brand, right? And so it's always trying to find that balance, right? But also catering towards the exact crowd where, if you're $100 mint for a membership, it's probably not going to make sense. But if your mint is 0.25 and gas is $100, that person's not going to care, right? They're going to expect that. It's like when you sign up for a country club and the country club member is 15 grand a year, but they make you pay a $7,000 initiation fee. It sucks, but at some points at certain brands, it's part of it. I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's just kind of part of an economic market.
No, yeah, I definitely agree with you. I just definitely think that, in the future, I'm not going to look at my NFT and be like, oh, that one's worth X amount because it's on Ethereum, right? I feel like an NFT shouldn't be valued with Ethereum or with the dollar it should be, cross every currency period, right? Because what makes value is not the blockchain, it's the project. I don't know if you see it from that perspective.
I do, but also I love NBA Top Shot. I hate Flow Chain. So I'm never going to invest heavy into it, right? Because it's like, oh, well, people say, well, it's security and it's this and it's so great. Yeah, but I don't want Solana because it's a VC funded chain. It goes against everything that is decentralization, right? And so I think that's the problem. Like, where do you find this balance of technology and safety and security and all of those in between, and I think where
No, I agree. I totally agree, and I mean that's why we're all here, right? Because we're basically seeing how the space plays out, and like just like your friend, I'm a bit of an ETH maxi as well, but not so much, right? I've used a lot of different chains, and by a lot I mean like 4. It's not really like it's just that in the world is a lot, but you could totally see how what you were saying as far as being against Solana for that reason. I agree, but at the end of the day, it's like, if we stay the way it is, you're going to exclude a good 70% of the world from even using the blockchain because, it's not realistic that someone, with lower means can go ahead and spend $100 in gas. So I think that that's why at the end of the day, it's definitely going to become interoperable. And, Ethereum isn't going to continue to be this way forever, right? Like they're actively working on the staking and 2.0, which is going to change it from proof of work to proof of stake. So we'll see how that goes because I don't see that being anytime soon at all. But, they keep promising that it's right around the corner. But yeah.
And this is what happens when you join a space and people get passionate. So welcome.
No, I think we're all trying to solve the same problems. Right? Like, that's the best part
Yeah, it's a
about it.
good thing. It's a good thing.
It happens. It happens. I'm like, it's just
But
a reality, and I think it's valuable. It's just, it's funny how we all get, including myself. So
And I think it's where you come from on it, where it's like I come from IT background and security, so Solana scares me because they own like 40 something percent of their nodes. So if they just want to roll something back, I mean, we all remember Ethereum Foundation in the early years. It's like, okay, well, I will just stay on Web 2, right? I mean, what's the point of half Web 3 in the name of
Yeah.
what? I don't understand that argument. I understand making it easy access use, but not at the sake of sacrificing security and what actually Web3 is. The idea of diluting a Web3 version to onboard somebody. I don't know. I go back and forth on it.
Yeah, I think that's a good, closing argument that we were having there, a little conversation. So you could take it from there, Tommy.
Yeah, right on, almost an hour on the dot too. Way to close it out, guys. But yeah, fantastic first little get together. I appreciate everyone that joined. Like I said earlier, we're gonna get this every Tuesday, 4 o'clock. Talk a little hospitality, have a little theme beforehand, all announced every week, and then we'll get off the edges a little bit, like we just did.